It's time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. In-house analyst Obani Akinwale is in the studio to do justice to this. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
All right, we begin with the Daily Times, and it says we've tested over 2,000 persons for COVID-19. Federal government, as NCDC records 23 new cases, raising confirmed cases to 174. To the News Direct, coronavirus, federal government commences 20,000 naira relief fund to poor households. And on the front page of the blueprint, as COVID-19 cases hit 174, Buhari okayed 70,000 tons of grains as palliatives. And to the Daily Trust now, COVID-19 status of 20 governors unknown, 3 tests positive, 13 negative, 39 ministers silent. It's a moral burden to declare, lawyers, CSOs react. And finally, on the front page of the Leadership newspaper, COVID-19, federal government distributes food, cash to vulnerable Nigerians. PMB approves 70,000 tons of grains. 70% infected Nigerians are men. Minister confirmed cases hit 174. Court fines orders isolation of 2 Egyptians for violating restriction order. Yobe, Kogi, top government officials donate 50% of salaries. VSF commit to 1 billion naira, says T.Y. Danjuma. All right, let's quickly take an overview of what is going on, Obani. Yeah. Yesterday, the Presidential Task Force had a press briefing, and so many things were said. And that is where I'd like for us to begin this morning. And from that statement, it says that the NCDC said they had tested about 2,000 persons, and then it also talks about the palliatives. They also talked about the palliatives being put in place by the government, and now the markets have been set to open. That's food markets from, I think, about 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And questions have arisen from some of the things being said. If persons are to stay at home and then you are opening markets, although the essence is to create a balance, how is this supposed to work? Isn't it going to defeat the purpose in the first place when you say that you're trying to curtail the spread of coronavirus?
Yeah, I think I share the same view, because for me, it's a policy somersault. You said somebody should go to the market, and possibly maybe federal government is thinking only people that goes to market are salary earners. And they forgot that possibly the guys that drive Danfo, the guys on Okada, the weather out there, the woman that sells ice block, all of them also go to the market. And the question you ask yourself is this: how do they get income if the place is locked down? Then again, looking at our nature as Nigerians, how are you going to ensure there is sanity in those markets? There was a report by Sarah Iku yesterday, and you could see the proximity between the buyer and the seller in the market. You could see how the place was rowdy and crowded. I wouldn't know what's informed that decision, but for me, I think it's not well thought out, and I feel government is trying as much as possible to respond to yearnings of people, but there are better ways of doing it. I think if federal government has asked them to release 70,000 tons of grains, I would advise that federal government agencies like what Lagos State government is doing is to start to go to individual houses and be giving them the supply. Otherwise, what was done in the US, what was done in China, is to create a portal, possibly for the urban areas, where people can make their demands. Or let's say for areas where there is no internet services, you create a code services whereby people can send SMS and what they need to buy in the market, and that you can see who wants what, and they can go and deliver to them and collect the money. Now you ask people to be locked down, then you ask people to go to the market. So you find out that people that are already bored indoor, what they will do is that, where are you going? I am going to the market. So how are you going to separate those guys that are genuinely going to go to the market from those that are not genuinely go to the market? For me, I think it is just like the government is giving with one hand and pushing trouble back with 10 hands. And it's high time they have to think about how they are going to do it. It is not too much for government to start delivering these food household items to people. make it SMS free. For example, one of the telecoms has said over this month, you have 30 free SMS per month. So why not leverage on those and tell telecoms that over this period, people are already stressed. Create this platform, whether unique USSD or whether via text messages, via online portals that people can place their applications, and government individuals can go and drop by their doorsteps, pharmacies and what have you.
Do we have the capacity to do that? Do we have the personnel?
So somebody asked me, do we have capacity? And I said, anytime the government feels the responsibility is when we have whether we have capacity. Do we have capacity to do vaccination for polio and cholera in this country? Do we do poliomyelitis every 3 months in this country? How is government able to go to individual houses and ensure that every house is marked for children between age 0 and 5 and give them polio vaccine? If government can do that and all state government can pull into that, and also local government can also borrow their idea, I think it's not too difficult if we can enumerate all houses in Lagos. If federal government can do a census to enumerate houses in 2006 in Nigeria, I don't think it is too much for federal government to use that same data. After all state government collect land use charges from all households. So you possibly know the number of households you have within your environment.
But you know how we are when it comes to issues of data, which a lot of persons are beginning to see is a major challenge here if we have to get anything right.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But the question is that who are those people that are giving the polio vaccines to? How do they give them the polio vaccines? How do they mark all those things? If we ever say that statistics is less than 200 million, this million, how are we able to get those? Are they ghosts? Are they cows? So if we have those statistics, what we are saying is that government may not be 100% efficient to give 100% Nigerians, but if you are able to reach to somebody that knows somebody and knows somebody somewhere, apparently you are going to reduce the burden on Nigerians. But if you continue to wait until people should come out to go to the market, how many, for example, in our domain, how many markets do we have here? The question again is this: the people that are going to sell in the market, are they not people that you ask them to lock down? So how are you going to ensure that you don't allow this transmission of this disease via buying and selling in the market? Money will change and people will sweat, people will clean their body, and yet we said we want to contain the disease, but we are opening doors where somebody said if we are not careful, said arrogance kills Europe. Ignorance will kill Africa. If we are not very careful, these are leaders are the ones that opened borders after the Italian man came in. These are leaders are the ones that are holding rallies that the something will happen. These are leaders are the ones that are having gatherings that there are no social distancing. Yet they are also suggesting to populists. And like the NCDC man said they have only tested 2,000 people out of the population of over 2 million. So out of those 2,000, you and I knows that 80% are who and who in the society. So the question now is this: 2,000 minus 200 million, that's about 199,998,000. So the question you ask yourself is that, do we have the capacity? And they said they want to be doing 1,500 tests a day. I'm appealing to federal government. Yes, we know you guys have money to hire private jets for evacuation from Lagos to Abuja or to anywhere. But for poor masses that doesn't have this capacity, it is not going to it's not going to be hellfire if you decide to be delivering these food items, drug items, water to people's doorstep, so that we don't have reason to go out. Please, if you are beating boys that are playing football on the street, how are we going to justify asking people again to rush to the market to go and buy? Please and please, let us do what is right and do it once and for all.
All right, Obani Akinwale, let's leave the discussion here at this time. Thank you for speaking with us.
My pleasure.
Take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. Our in-house analyst, Obani Akinwale, is in the studio to talk more about this. Before I get to your reaction to what some of Tesem has said, let's quickly take a look at the pages of the newspaper, what the papers are saying. Still talking COVID-19, and I begin with the Daily Times. It says, we have tested over 2,000 persons for COVID-19, federal government. As NCDC records 23 new cases, raising confirmed cases to 174. And then we move to the News Direct. Coronavirus, federal government commences 20,000 naira relief fund to poor households. On the front page of the blueprint, as COVID-19 cases hit 174, Buhari okays 70,000 tons of grains as palliatives. Orders food markets open 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We've worked on 70% contact tracing. NCDC, Ekiti evicts or convicts rather to Egyptians, 12 others for violation, and 12 Ivorian returnees test positive in Osun. And then we move to the front page of the Daily Trust. COVID-19 status of 20 governors unknown. 3 test positive, 13 negative, 39 ministers silent. It's a moral burden to declare. Lawyers, CSOs react. And finally, on the front page of the Leadership newspaper, COVID-19, federal government distributes food, cash to vulnerable Nigerians. President Muhammadu Buhari approved 70,000 tons of grains. 70% infected Nigerians are men. Ministers confirmed cases hit 174. Court finds others isolation of 2 Egyptians for violating restriction order. Yobe, Kogi top government officials to donate 50% of salaries. VSF to commit 1 billion naira, says T.Y. Danjuma. All right, now let's quickly react to, or rather I'd like you for you to react to what Sema said, the lockdown, how the level of compliance is seemingly low, even though the government has come out to say that some persons they can go out to shop. And he mentioned something which seems to be striking for me, that perhaps in the end that the purpose might be defeated. The way things are going, we said a lockdown to, track, and the government made the use of this word, aggressively, address this issue. When you look at what we have in terms of our capacity medically, do you think that this 14-day lockdown at the end of the day would really achieve its purpose?
Let me start by saying, I said earlier on that there is a phrase online that says, arrogance kills Europe and the West, and we hope ignorance will not kill us in Africa. As a student of communication engineering, I understand you can only say you have communicated only when you have sent out information out and the recipient has acknowledged your receipt and you get a feedback. And your feedback is either positive or negative. Unfortunately for us, using Ifeanyi Oyegbule's language, he said, who drew us? Sincerely yours, our problem is not today. As a boy growing up in the city of Ibadan, I remember an agency called MAMSA. MAMSA is a government agency that was metamorphosized to what they call National Orientation Agency. They go out all day to tell you what government is doing, why government is doing it, and people key into those ideas. Now, the challenge we have is that those agencies of government are just existing on paper and they are not doing their work. Why are you asking people to stay back at home? Is there any reason for them to stay back at home? Do they understand the purpose of staying back at home? What is the value of life to them? What have you even said to them that is the value of their life? And when this information is not available to people or is not properly communicated to them, information is light. And if you are not informed, perhaps you're already deformed.
So that is the gap.
That is the problem. Information gap is there. There is no communication. And you can only have communication when there is sense of belonging between the government and the governed. Now, the government seems not to see the government as doing what will benefit them. So whatever the government is saying, most times the governed are not listening to it, and that is what is killing us in this part of the world. This coronavirus, you could see people are saying it is not disease for the black, it is not in Lagos, it is not in Nigeria. They just want to use it to embezzle money. Government needs to do more enlightenment, campaign, and communication, and let people see. And again, a hungry man is an angry man. If there is no food on people's table, no matter how much you try to communicate to them, they won't listen.
But we have seen the president has said 70,000 tons of grains should be released. And just yesterday, certain persons, that's the poor, the vulnerable, were given this monies, especially in Abuja. We're seeing government taking measures. I mean, how impactful will that be at this time? In fact, it was even an advance that was given to them. I'm
afraid it will not work. And these are my reasons. How do you measure who is vulnerable or who is not vulnerable? You know, in Nigerians, most people live a cosmetics life. If you go to, there was a report TVC did about 3 months ago, where you have big houses in Abuja and nobody is staying there. And you have those Nigerians, the Northerners, manning those buildings. Now, if you go to such a building and there is no inhabitant, how do you know that security man there is vulnerable? If you go to under bridge in Lagos, in Badia, how do you know those people there? How do you account for them? So who has the statistics of people that are vulnerable? if you go to our eyebrow areas, Lekki, Ajah, and what have you, you find a lot of lady prostituting there. How do you know that they are not vulnerable? Who measures what is vulnerable, what is not vulnerable? In the IDP camp, we know what happens there, giving money to the IDP, giving food to them. We know how people that are in agencies are taking those money, those fees. So these mayors, we have said it, 40 million Nigerians have already registered for BVN. Give them. If somebody said it on the social media, he said, if NEPA or PHCN can take bill to every houses in Nigeria and they can get people disconnected, then use that same mayor to give everybody money. Everybody in Nigeria is vulnerable. It's either you are paying 7.5 or you are paying for electricity or you are paying for fuel at $27 per barrel. We are still paying 125. So you ask yourself, who is not vulnerable? The man out there that is trying to put pancake on his face to look at everything is fine. Everybody in this country is vulnerable. For example, TVC, for example, for the past 1 month, we've been running on diesel. Are we not vulnerable? I've spent almost about 24 million on diesel, and I cannot have electricity. Am I not vulnerable? Will it not affect my bottom line at the end of the month? Will my OPEX not be affected? So if government is saying 70 million, I will tell you, as a station, we are vulnerable because I've invested almost 24 million in buying diesel over a month where I don't have a supply. So what is the parameter government is using to say 70,000 grains, 72,000 grains? Right. Where do you get it? So government needs to look inward and do what is needful for all businesses, individuals, everybody in Nigeria, except those guys at the villa or at the state headquarters. We are all vulnerable. And they should please, as well as possible, help us from our vulnerability. We'll leave the discussion here now. Thank you, Obani Akinwale, for speaking with us. Thank you so much.
Yeah. The papers are saying the same thing that a majority of Nigerians are echoing, which has to do with the COVID-19. What is your reaction? We've gone through major states. We've seen the level of compliance. So what do you have to say about how things are going? Yeah,
people, I would rather not call it compliance, but I will call it enforcement.
Oh, really?
Compliance is when you are not being compelled to do what you are doing. But enforcement is when you are being compelled. Everybody is under compulsion. You could hear the young man saying, our oga, our oga, our oga. And again, he said something, he said, on our Lagos Island, there is no case of COVID. So you understand that we see a problem with information dissemination and communication. And again, I bet like I said earlier, is the person we're seeing in this footage now, is he not vulnerable? Who is going to go and give this man 70 grains of rice in his house? So the government needs to change some of the strategies in reaching out to people in terms of communication, in terms of relief material sharing. For me, we're not doing enough as a nation to ensure that everybody is put in right perspective. Companies will pay salary at the end of April. Where do they get those money from? Do they not need relief? People that are selling ice blocks, selling pepper, selling bread, they will have to pay for utility bills, house rent. Everybody will pay for house rent for this month. They will pay NEPA bills. They will pay for cable subscription. Who is going to bear that brunch when people are not doing nothing? So what I'm saying is that our strategy needs to be revamped. Then we need to improve on our communication and information dissemination to people. Otherwise, what we'll find out is that, like him, he just put on the glove. Why is he putting on the glove? He doesn't know. What is he trying to protect? He doesn't know. This same man will leave. Tony will leave.
He mentioned it. He said coronavirus.
You see now, even to know the name of the problem we are facing is a problem. Some people call it koinona. You remember a couple of weeks ago, it was COVID-19. So there's a problem. And until we get to that point, even if Lagos, where we have said we have substantial value of education and literacy, and people are yet not properly informed of what and why they are doing what they are doing, there is a major crisis on our hand. And again, let us also be conscious of the fact that NCDC only said they have tested 2,000 people
2,000
out of a population of 2 million. I wonder what happened in the IDP camp. I wonder what is happening in some areas where...
are you of the opinion, because there is a school of thought that says that perhaps we should have a national lockdown to address this?
That can't be far from the truth. Then again, if we cannot fight COVID, I'm challenging WHO now that if we cannot find drug for COVID, can we find drugs to enhance people's immunity? If we cannot solve the problem of COVID, is there a way that we can solve the problem of enhancing people's immunity so that instead of us looking, if COVID is not being able to solve it, can we find a way of enhancing people in such a way that if we have COVID, if COVID goes into your system, your level of immunity will fight the germs or fight the disease in such a way that you will not be affected. Otherwise, what we are doing is that we are just doing shadow chasing. You contact trace. If you are lucky, you are able to survive. If you are unlucky, you are not able to survive. Commissioner of Health Lagos said they have not used a single ventilator in Lagos.
He said the
now,
case is not as critical.
Europe and America are out of ventilators. So what is happening to coronavirus patients in Africa that is not happening to them in Europe? These are things that they need to look into. CDC or NCDC or FDA or what have you needs to do a collaboration and see if we cannot fight this virus, can we find a way of boosting people's immune system? Then again, IMF, World Bank needs to look at possibility of forgiving the impoverished nations' debt now. This is if it's a society of equals, United Nations needs to look at every country is in trouble. World Bank, IMF, and other international monetary agencies needs to look at possibility of forgiving debt. Otherwise, what we find out is that most countries will go the way of Greece, or most countries will go the way of Argentina, whereby countries or Zimbabwe, whereby you have 1 million Zimbabweans on the street and cannot do anything. So these are some of the policies that we expect that WHO, United Nations, World Bank, IMF will start chunking out. And in our own case, I'm appealing to our federal government. Everybody in Nigeria is vulnerable. Please and please, TVC is vulnerable. Give us 50 million to buy fuel that we have consumed in the last 30 days. Advertisers are not paying again. They have shut down. The revenue is going to go down. Staffs here are going to require their salary at the end of the month. It's going to hit on board of directors and the financiers. So the high time the government needs to look at every business in Nigeria is vulnerable, and government needs to inject money into those businesses, either small businesses or big businesses. Otherwise, what you find out is that a country that has high unemployment rate, after this shutdown, there's a global recession, then the unemployment rate
will... Perhaps this is why the government has come up with a committee being headed by the vice president.
To give moratorium to loans?
To come up with ideas.
So
to talk about issues like this.
So why is it that we borrow the idea of isolation of Europe and we not borrow the idea of injecting billions of dollars to the economy? Why are we not asking our manufacturing industry to start producing the nose mask? When we borrow the idea of, okay, saying, let us isolate, create isolation centers, get the ventilators, why can't we borrow the business idea, what China invests into their economy, what America invests into their economy, what London is into their economy? People are delivering goods to people at home. Why can't we practice the same thing?
Perhaps these are measures they will be coming up with.
We don't want to hear mayors, we want to see mayors. The President of America went to the Senate to ask for a palliative. A $2 trillion was approved, and it was indebted to the economy. What is indebted to our own economy, except $11 million or thereabout from NNPC? Some people are donating $1 billion. Will that go around the population of 20 million in Lagos? Will we make about 200 million Nigeria to be able to put food on their table? These are questions we need to ask. What is a life expectancy index before this corona index? What is per capita income of Nigeria? How many dollars a day Nigeria live upon? So government needs to look at this. Otherwise, like a lady said in Abuja in one of the footages, he said, if corona did not kill us, hunger will kill us. And again, we have to be careful. Once people don't have a means of survival, crime rate will increase. So what is happening is that those guys that drive for car, that drive Danfo, that sell bonds on the road, that sell newspaper, that they have nothing doing and they need to feed their family, they will come to our house and start knocking doors. Do you have rice? They will not steal, they will not collect money from you because it's useless. You bring out your rice, bring out your soup, and they will take it away. So government needs to look at all these things and ensure that we stop or we stabilize the economy and ensure that the crime rate doesn't go on high during and after the corona lockdown.
All right, Obani Akinwale, thank you so much for your insight on this issue this morning. All right, let's tell you that the views and reactions of our resource persons on the topics discussed today are their views and have no connection with TVC News. Thanks for watching.